Welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge. Smoke Camels for 30 days and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, we're flying by the seat of our pants once again. Uh, got my son coming over this weekend. He's coming today for a little party in honor of his 41st birthday, which meant that the whole weekend is kind of like taken up. And Friday comes, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So here we go. Last week, from the week before already, there was a story about howler monkeys in Mexico dropping from the trees like overripe fruit. Now, temperatures in southern Mexico had reached above 110 degrees, and it was just beyond the tolerance of these monkeys. Something similar to this happened a couple of years ago in Australia, where the temperature had reached had gone to a point where the fruit bats, these giant fruit bats that hang upside down from the trees, from fruit trees, it was more than they could tolerate, and so they began to fall from the trees, just like ripe fruit falling from the trees, falling dead below the trees, and you have this massive die-off. And it's a dramatic example of something that I have said a number of times. It's like we're reaching what are called tipping points for individual species, including our own. When the temperature gets to be 110 and 120, human beings start to die along with everything else. But what you really have to worry about is the plankton in the oceans. The oceans have been taking a real beating. We're destroying the coral reefs. Everything in the ocean is dying, and all, of course, our life in the air that we breathe depends upon the oceans, which we are destroying. And that brings me to a story that was in Haaretz last week about sea urchins worldwide. There's this huge epidemic starting from the Gulf of Eilat. Blame the Jews if you want. I don't know. It's decimating large numbers of sea urchins in the Gulf of Eilat, and it's spreading to the Red Sea and into the larger Indian Ocean. And it was described as just an absolute ecological disaster, one after another. And what we're experiencing are ecological disasters because our planet is on the toboggan slide to hell, to extinction. So there was a new book that I noticed last week. I haven't gotten it yet, but it's called The Weight of Nature, and it is described as a deeply reported, eye-opening book about climate change, our brains, and the weight of nature on all of us. The march of climate change is stunning and vicious, it says, with rising seas, extreme weather, and oppressive heat blanketing the globe. But its effect on our very brains constitutes a public health crisis that has gone largely unreported. Based on 7 years of research, this book by the award-winning journalist and trained neuroscientist Clayton Page Alden synthesizes the emerging neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral economics of global warming and brain health. A masterpiece of literary journalism, this book shows readers how a changing environment is changing us today from the inside out. So, it's so obvious that, since the pandemic, our children's education has just totally suffered. It's clear that this is having an impact. CO2 levels are off the charts, and they affect how we think. So the higher the CO2, the less clear your thoughts are. So it's not just me; it's all of us. We're all becoming less competent about everything. So anyway, last week, Donald was convicted of 31 felony counts, and I start to wonder. I worry about my show. What would happen if things started to get better all the time? But you got to ask yourself: is it good news? Because what we're just talking about our brains. What the hell is going on where the entire uh, Republican establishment comes and says that this was all caused by Jewish space lasers. I mean, oh no, that wasn't it. They said it was all the Biden administration concocted this trial in Lower Manhattan in criminal court for fraud. And the whole thing was like from the federal government, which has it's absurd. It's really absurd. And yet here we are living with this kind of absurdity, which really just melts your brain. I mean, it leaves you in a state of disorientation. What the hell is going on? So last week I had mentioned that James Hansen has hope. He says there's still a little hope, and I don't. And I wanted to just say a little bit about the difference here. This is the book that convinced me. So this is the Collapse of Western Civilization by Naomi Oreskes and Eric Conway. And the first chapter of this is a little book. The first chapter of this is called The Penumbral Age. That is, we were in the dark. We didn't realize what was happening to us. But our fossil fuel civilization was leading us to extinction. So we discover, and the first part was the Montreal Protocol. We looked up and we saw that there was a hole in the ozone layer. And my God, what's that? That's a big problem because without the ozone layer, all life on the Earth would disappear. So we got together in Montreal in 1991, I think it was, and all the nations of the world decided that we would fix the problem by not producing fluorocarbons, with the hairspray and air conditioning, and we would go to another forms of chemicals that would not be damaging to our ozone layer. And the next step was to deal with the bigger issue of carbon and global heating. But the next chapter, next chapter in the book is called "The Frenzy of Fossil Fuel Consumption." That is, our reaction was not to reduce. And all this talk has been about how to reduce fossil fuel footprint and everything else, and what you can do as an individual. But the fact is that we have gone into a frenzy of fossil fuel consumption. So it was very clear that our reaction was irrational and suicidal, and that's the underlying situation, which drives everything else. Obviously, uh, our lives are going to be dominated by this fact that we are on the toboggan slide to hell, and obviously trying to uh, assure ourselves that somehow hope is out there. Remember what Kafka said: "There's plenty of hope, just none for us." And uh, this no time like the present. You got to take the Camels Challenge, smoke camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference camels can make in your life. And that'll have to be it for this week. I apologize for not being prepared in in any way at all. After all, I've got nothing else to do. I love you all, my audience. I don't know where you come from, and it's this tiny little audience, but it's a great audience. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week with more bad news.